Hey, everybody. Welcome to another Thursday. Welcome to another Carvers and Creators, a weekly demonstration and discussion with pumpkin carvers, sculptors, and multi-talented artists from around the world. First, we ask that you give us a like and a follow on the platform you're watching us on. Let us know in the comments where you're watching from, and if you have any questions for our special guest and our carvers. Let's meet the carvers. Let's do it. Yeah. First, he's an artist and sculptor from Boston, Massachusetts. He was a judge on season 3 of Outrageous Pumpkins on the Food Network. It's Paul Dever. Welcome.
There he is. Hey, Paul. Good to see you.
Thursday, everybody.
How you doing?
Living the dream.
Next, he's a multimedia sculpture artist from Tucson, Arizona, and a finalist on season 9 of Halloween Wars on the Food Network. It's Matt Harper. Welcome.
Aloha, everyone. Good to be here.
Hello.
Aloha. Our guest tonight is an award-winning artist, designer, and monster maker for over 40 years. Please welcome the legendary Steve Wang.
Hey, everyone. My favorite color is blue.
Need more water than this. Come on, let's go.
I like long walks. Thanks for joining us, Steve.
Yes.
Thank you for having me.
Yes.
Wow, this is going to be a special treat for you. Go ahead, Mike. Go ahead.
My name is Michael Mondragon. I'll be running the show, moderating comments, and chiming in from time to time. Paul?
And leaving hearts behind.
Oh, stop.
Yeah, in the dust. Handsome fella, you. Damn.
Seriously, Jesus. Like, you're like a middle-aged Justin Bieber.
God, I wish.
The dimples for days he's got.
Let's check out our carvings from last week. The subject was flirty fantasy animal or character. Paul, you nailed it. This is fantastic.
I don't know if he's flirty. I'd say he's not allowed in school zones again. I don't think I can do flirty. It's a critter pillar, right? So have something else, I guess. I don't know.
That's fantastic.
Thank you.
I don't know if you have the other photo, but this was
that
there it is.
We'll go.
Yeah, nature put a nice crease on that one. And man, when you were making it, I was just dying laughing. Like, what an awesome, pickup. If you're going to the grocery store and you find one with a butt, this is how they
You know what's even creepier? The way I had to hold it, it was like I was squeezing his butt cheek the whole time. It was gross. Because I'm thinking of it in a dirty way because it's just a squash, and of course that's where my mind goes.
There you go.
But yeah, I don't know. I tried to do something with it.
I love the expression. I love the fat rolls of the whatever the pillar part.
Pillar part, yeah. Cool. Yeah. Here's something.
I can't get enough of this.
Right.
Too good.
Perfect.
And Matt, awesome.
Yeah, I went with the Easter Bunny fantasy character, but this one kind of was a little more evil than normal. And then the flirty part was tough. That's a hard attribute to get on there on a squash. It seemed but regardless, I was having him kind of like winking and a little bit excited, but yeah, also not. There's probably a couple of warrants out for this guy somewhere.
Yeah, you know what that looks like? That looks like the kind of rabbit that put a $10 bill up on Pervert's Row. Like that's there's a lady dancer coming by, and he's like, "Hey, I got your attention with that 10."
So good. And are those ears? Are they glued on?
Well, it's cut from another buddy, a donor squash. But yeah, I stuck them on top with toothpicks. And then just kind of shaved it so it made it look like they were coming out of it. But it's all lights and magic at this point.
Sure. I don't know. It's great.
A lot of carving.
Yeah. Well, I work in pixels and vectors, and this is before I even say it, our guest last week has one in there. I left it off my thing. This is great. Loving from the oven. She nailed it.
Karina killed it.
Yeah. So good.
Got the lip thing down and the hands. Yeah, she nailed the flirty part of it too. And the fantasy part of it. But
yes, and the eyes and everything. It's so good.
And I guarantee this is edible because she makes everything out of cake, Steve. And so this is she's a master at sculpting. And you just look at it, you're like, wait a minute, that's cake. And it is.
Wow, I'd be ashamed to eat it after all that work.
I know.
I mean, same thing with the pumpkins and the gourds too. Yeah, eventually.
Yeah.
That's right. You got to put them to use somehow. But
Mhm.
this was the more calories, I think.
Have you guys ever tried coating with something and then molding it?
No. We've been doing lately is scanning them and cataloging them.
Oh yeah, that's a good idea.
Yeah, because I have tried and they release gas because they're rotting, and I wasted a good amount of silicone, but I got a great bubble out of it. It had a humongous gas bubble. But yes, we do get the speech, and you can scold us too to mold them.
Yeah,
keep them. Oh my God, I could. Yeah, nobody has a house that big.
One a week takes a lot of space, especially when they're the big pumpkins. But
when you get the big pumpkins, the thing about the butternuts, Steve, is that they keep for a long time because they're very dense. Like a pumpkin is basically just a beach ball full of water, right? It's very, and they're not that thick. And a butternut squash just has a seed cavity in the bell, so it's kind of like a hard clay in a way. You have to go subtractive at it, obviously, but it's very consistent, and they keep for a while. Like I've had them in my fridge, I don't know, sometimes 2 weeks before they even show signs of losing any detail. So now usually what I'll do is if I carve it and I like it, which is every once in a blue moon, I'll wait a day or two to kind of let some of the details open up so that the scanner can catch it a little more. Because I feel like sometimes when you scan it in, it's like, it doesn't look that bumpy in real life. It's pretty smooth. So the next step is learning how to use one of the programs like ZBrush or something to go in and kind of shrink wrap it and simplify it.
Yeah.
Baby steps.
Yeah, Karina, she nailed it on this one. That was absolutely outstanding. I work in pixels and vectors, so here's my album art of this. So it's a flirty fantasy character. So I also threw some Fantasy Island, Mariah Carey from her fantasy album, and Double Fantasy back there, John and Yoko making out.
Oh,
I missed that one.
You are Easter egg. This is Easter egg central with you, Mick. Oh my God.
The guy at the bottom looks like he could push out an Easter egg too.
Yeah,
I actually met Herb Villachet years ago.
Did you really?
Oh, no way.
Wow. This was like late 80s, and I was in a Japanese restaurant. And a friend of mine, I was with an old friend named Michiko Tagawa. She's passed on since, but she was a senior back then. Worked on a lot of movies like the original Thing and on Gremlins 2 with us. And we're there having lunch, and then here comes Herb walking in, and Michiko was like, "Oh, Herb!" Like she knew him.
Oh my God.
So yeah, she ended up talking to him for like 10 minutes. So I got to meet him. It was kind of
how awesome is that?
Yeah.
See that? 6 degrees.
Yes.
Yeah, we have one less degree of separation.
Degrees of Fantasy Island. Yeah.
But
exactly.
before this, the person that I knew that met him actually had a blurry Polaroid of him, and you couldn't even tell it was him. So now I can say that I actually know someone who I know that has met him, and I can confirm it.
Nice.
A blurry Polaroid of Hervé Villachet. See, so I couldn't confirm it.
That's the kind of thing that gets passed down from generation to generation, though. This blurry photo is my grandfather's.
Exactly. I'd like to introduce you to the 4th member of Carvers and Creators responsible for the carving subject this week. It is the center spinner. It is the hollow wheel. And as always, Paul will tell you more about it right now.
Happy Thursday, everybody. Welcome, Steve. This is the wheel. So every week, Matt and I will, and Mick, obviously, will take the challenge. We will just spin the wheel, and whatever comes up, we have to try and carve. No real reference, or definitely no real idea. We're just going to go with it and see what we can come up with creatively. So we're going to spin it twice. First spin is going to be the subject. Second spin will be the attribute or emotion we have to apply. So this week we have goblin, rodent, guest choice. I have one ready. Thug, skeletal, punk rock, alien, classic monster, aquatic, or demon. Second spin will be bummed out, exhausted, guest choice once again. Euphoric, robust, painfully happy, furious, jovial, flirty, or dismal. And if flirty comes out again, I ain't going to be very flirty. All right, I'm going to try and fix the wheel here because let's put it right there. And here we go. Spin one. Hey, do you notice I can do it with my left hand?
Look at you.
got
He's
cleared
back.
to do a
He's
little.
back.
Yeah, I got cleared to do a little.
Successful surgery.
Aquatic.
Aquatic. But
Love
also flirty. Look at the flirty. It actually landed on that one.
Ooh.
Stay
All
away
right,
from
man.
that.
Well, I'm gonna spend extra hard on this one. Probably gonna
Yeah.
need another surgery. Painfully happy.
Ooh.
Aquatic.
Okay, I got to write that one down. Painfully.
I gotta figure
Painfully
out what that
happy.
means in my brain.
Okay.
How does
Got it.
painfully happy aquatic? Jeez Louise. And just like that, Steve, the anxiety has begun.
Yes.
Yeah, that's a tough one, man. Oof.
Yeah, well, that's what makes it funny, I guess, because it's like I have no idea.
He's got Aquaman over his shoulder there. We can just, we can.
Yeah.
That'll be our inspiration.
Right, you can sculpt Jason Momoa over there.
Exactly.
He's always painfully happy. So you got
Yeah, he's a happy guy.
If I looked like Jason Momoa, I'd be painfully happy too.
Well, if you're carving or creating with us, we're going to give you 5 minutes to get your tools together, get situated, get your carving oil in order. Steve, I'm going to start with you. What are you drinking tonight for your carving oil?
oh, my usual cup of Joe.
There you go.
My brother
Right.
cup. Yeah.
Cup of Joe, I get it. Yep,
Yeah,
perfect.
I mean, I know you guys drink a lot of IPA. I actually gave away a lot of IPA just today to a friend because I'm not much of a beer drinker anymore. So this has just been sitting in my house. I thought, you know what, I'm going to give to somebody who's going to appreciate it. But coffee, I do drink every day. It's like my life juice. So I'm gonna continue to drink coffee.
I love it.
Nice.
And
Nice.
He's got the bunny cup. Okay, I was going to class it up with something. Steve Wang's on the show, but I went with a Jack and Coke. But I do have a Steve for us. When we were at Monster Palooza last year, we discovered 805s.
Oh
which is-
yeah.
And for whatever reason, it became our we'll call it the Carvers and Creators beer of choice, and as a group, because we all agree on this one. So I figured I'd get one of these, and in honor of the upcoming Monster Palooza, which we're like, only a few weeks away. So we're this is my lager excitement tonight.
There you go.
That's
Perfect.
a really good beer, actually.
Perfect.
It's like the West Coast Sam Adams.
Mhm.
Yes.
There you go. That's a great. I like that.
I hate to say it, I think it's better than Sam Adams. I got to be
Ooh.
honest.
Ooh,
Maybe it's because it's like
Boston
Christmas when I get to have it because we don't have it around here.
It's an import beer for you.
It is. It's like a Heineken. It's fancy. All right, you ready? This is from Kettlehead Brewing in New Hampshire, in Franklin, New Hampshire. Adult karate lessons.
Wow. That's tremendous.
Yes, please, and thank you.
That looks serious.
That's
Someone's-
no joke.
That's some experts there.
Yeah.
Yes, everybody looks so serious, especially this guy.
Yeah.
He's got the nunchucks and everything.
Mhm.
The guy has the yellow. It was a Game of Death.
Kill Bill?
Lee.
Oh, Bruce Lee, that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a lot of Easter eggs in that one.
Just like Bruce Lee too. So weird. I mean,
Yeah.
seriously. They all have like the party store wigs on too. I love it.
Exactly. Of course.
Well, the one cool thing about there's amazing renaissance of the covers, right? The can, the
Can
art.
art, yeah.
But when it comes to the what's inside, it sometimes doesn't live up. So I'm interested to see if this one is as good as the outside of it looks.
Yes.
Do you want like an actual beer review? I thought we just reviewed that.
No. I mean, sometimes it's a big letdown. You're like, look at this cool thing. Ooh,
Yes, exactly. Well, speaking of interesting art, and I know that Paul is a golfer, and I know a lot of you out there, but I'm sure a lot of you are movie fans. Well, mine tonight is a gifted beer. It is from Brewdog Brewing, and it is the Bushwood. Bushwood beer from Caddyshack.
My Bushwood?
You?
Oh, that's awesome.
Isn't that awesome?
That's
And
really
it's too good to be true that I'm actually going to have this on tonight's show. So I thought you would get a kick out of that, Paul. So
I do. I can't
cheers
wait
to our creations tonight, and thank you to Johnny Pearson. Wow, he is one of the
Johnny.
greatest benefactors of our show. Thank you so much for your super chat here. Thank you so much. We promised to have a great show in your honor. How about that?
Yeah,
How about that?
especially
Thank
with
you for
the painfully happy aquatic.
Yeah, somehow
Yes.
it's going to be wonderful because of that.
We'll make it happen.
Well, cheers, guys.
Cheers. Thank you for being here.
Yes, Steve,
And-
thank you very much.
I want to start out because I have a whole deck of Steve's work here, but I'm going to start from the very beginning. So when I say the very beginning, this is one of your first projects. Am I correct, Steve?
Yeah, I was 16. I started sculpting when I was about 14, but this is when I was 16. ET had just come out, and I actually it's actually a full head, so I made about 10 of these. Painted it up, and I sold them at the local fantasy stores and costume shops. Wow. And I sold out pretty quickly because ET was actually very popular. So
yeah,
well, it's a great sculptor too. Jesus, you went from 0 to 100, huh? Started at 14 and were molding and making by 16.
It's crazy. I actually got my first professional job at 14. There was a local theater company in the Bay Area. I'm from San Jose, and up in San Francisco there was a PBS show. I forgot the name of the troupe, but they were like mimes and actors and do all kinds of stuff. And they hired, through my friend Johnny Psycho, who went to San Jose State University, they got a hold of him and they found out that he knew somebody who could make masks. So I designed these kind of 3 different samurai masks with like the no makeup, and then a falcon guy with these feathers and really long like white hair. It was like white and blue with markings on it. And I sculpted and made these 4 masks for the show, and it was actually on TV.
Wow!
So I got kind of lucked out, and that's kind of the start of my professional career, so to speak.
My gosh.
Yeah.
Jeez, I am definitely forcing my 14-year-old to sit down and watch this episode.
It can be done.
It can be done.
Was the show was the show you're describing, was it local to San Jose, or was
it was a local PBS show? So yeah,
okay.
I wanted to hear it there. But
that is so cool. So that was a big start, and you were 14.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my gosh! Wow, I love
Matt, what were you doing at 14, Mick? What were you doing at 14?
I think it had to do with picking noses, and I have no idea what I was doing. It wasn't cool. I was a paper boy when I was 11. So I mean, anyway, but yeah, that's remarkable, Steve. Did when you made these ET masks, did you do them in the traditional sense of the clay, then mold and all that, and paint and
yeah, they were actually a 2-piece construction. So I sculpted from the middle of the neck. I sculpted it from here out, and then I did the back part, and then I glued them together. Okay, and then there was a full head mask that came out pretty far out. You can see. Wow. Like out of the I think above the eyelid or something, I cut out some holes there so you can see through it.
Wow! And where did you learn that? I guess that's
that's what I want.
That's what's fascinating to me. Where did you figure out how to do all that stuff?
Actually, you know what? The best thing about back in the old days was that I think we had a huge disadvantage in that there was such a lack of information. Yeah. Like nowadays, you can learn anything from YouTube.
Yeah.
And the internet, but back then the information was so hard to come by. So they made you if you want to do something, it makes you kind of work harder for it. And I think it teaches you kind of a certain amount of work ethic and persistence.
Yeah.
But what I learned was for mask making, there was actually 2 issues of a magazine called Cinemagic that came out. One of them was by article on how to make a full latex mask by Kirk Brady.
Okay.
And it showed the whole like head casting process, sculpting, molding, 2-piece mold, and all that stuff. And so from that written article tutorial, I learned how to make masks.
Okay.
And there was another issue that had this amazing satyr makeup on, and it was done by Craig Reardon, who's a really good friend of mine, and also somebody I really look up to, old school, one of the original like old masters up there, like with Rick Baker and Stan Winston and all these guys, that generation. And he had shown you that you can actually make latex appliances instead of foam latex for people that haven't quite gotten to the stage of using foam yet. And he sculpted these appliances, cast them in latex with thin edges so you can blend them. And he painted them, and he made like paper mache horns and like plastic, taking plastic half domes and painting eyes. And it was so amazing. And that when I finally met Craig working on Godzilla, the movie from the 90s, he was actually one of the crew. And I told him, I thanked him, told him how amazing that article was and how I did so many makeups back as a kid using that tutorial technique. And he was so gracious that he found a mint condition copy of that magazine. He brought it in, and he signed it for me, and I still have it. It's amazing. Yeah.
Wow.
That's
Wow.
unbelievable.
Yeah, this year. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
No, I was saying, you got all that from a couple of articles, and you figured it all out. I'm still trying, Steve. It's been years.
And I remember those old, like even the Fangoria.
And I have YouTube.
Yeah. Well, I remember even those old and it's like it was the black and white still photos of the specific processes, right? Like you had to kind of understand, and then you'd read the almost like a chemistry of like, okay, you have to do this now and do this then. But I guess for the people who are watching who grew up on YouTube, that's the part where it's like mind-boggling, because you really did have to be extremely passionate about it to go to the lengths you did to make it. And so clearly it was in you from the early age. Did you like love monsters and stuff as a kid, or like even early? How were you introduced to like that world?
Well, I mean, since I was 4 years old, I had this fascination with fantasy, you know, and growing up, I grew up in Taiwan. That's where I was born. And I grew up watching like animations like Monkey King and, you know, a lot of Hanna-Barbera stuff, you know, like the Herculoids and all that stuff. I loved that as a kid. And then I loved monsters. So I think when I saw my very first Ultraman movie back when I was, I think 7, it just changed my life. There was these giant monster suits, and you look at it now and, you know, and they're all kind of very crude and very cheesy. But back in those days, that was like state of the art, you know, for me. And somehow I didn't know what that was, how that was. I just knew somehow that my life would have to be filled with that stuff. You know, kind of knew that in the back of my head. And then I was also very artistic. I started drawing when I was 4. And then not knowing anything about sculptures, you know, eventually I discovered sculpting, I think when I was about 13. Yeah, because I immigrated to the U.S. when I was like 9, and then that year was close to Halloween time. I went to a store with my grandma, and I saw all these latex masks, and it blew my mind. I had never seen latex masks before, and I was just literally like, "Oh my god, what is this? I have to have them all." Talked my grandma into getting me like a really cheesy ape mask. And then from that point, I started collecting them. I would save up my money from doing chores and mowing lawns or whatever. And for 4 years, I collected masks until I realized, you know what, this is not enough. I need to know how this stuff is made. And that's when I started like exploring like how are masks made. And then I learned that, you have to do sculpting and you have to make molds and cast. And so then I set myself on this voyage to basically teach myself how to do all that stuff.
Right.
And I want to say too, it might like sound like, oh man, this is like, I was so passionate and I did so much that other kids didn't do. It's true for the average kids, but you know, all the people from my generation all did the same thing. We were all just as passionate. We're all, you know, when I got into the business in LA in 1985, there were a ton of other artists that were my age and slightly older that had gotten in, and their story was identical to mine. You know, we were all, it's like that scene from Close Encounters, you know, you just like, somehow you have to head out to the Devil's Tower and you don't know why. So, you know, it was a nice camaraderie of people because you're like, you know, we all did the same thing and we all kind of found our way to LA and we did all this stuff on our own. So. No,
and Steve, you're absolutely right. We've been fortunate to have some of your colleagues and friends and contemporaries on with us. And that is a similar story. Like we had millionaire Playboy, Brian Wade, and he was talking about how he walked down the street and saw some people in a garage making latex masks, and the fire was lit, and next thing you know, he was doing it, and he was sweeping the floor just so he could watch them do it. It was like that, and it was like, and I love that spirit because I think some of that isn't there anymore in the world, and I wish there was more of it, but I'm enamored by like. I don't have a safety net. I don't have a plan B. This is what I'm going to do. And I really am enamored by folks like you that just like, this is, you know, I'm passionate about it. I'm going to go do it. And I'm going to find out every possible way to do it. And it wasn't because of you want to eventually get some big fame or anything like that. It was like, this is just what I want to do and where I'm going to go.
Yeah, absolutely. It's the old saying, if this whole industry just caved in and no one was paying us to do it, we still do it anyway.
Yes,
exactly. Yeah. Exactly. Now, let me ask a question about this photo, because obviously it's an iconic photo, right? Because of the movie that you're working on. Was this the point you realized you wanted to do makeup or be a bodybuilder?
Well, this was kind of both. No, actually, there's a funny quote behind this. When I was in the industry, and Brian Wade, I think, was actually a big part of this. There's this whole thing about, like, oh, you're a sculpting stud and you're a painting stud. That's kind of how we describe like the rock stars of our industry. And so this photo came out as a joke to that whole, like, look at me, I'm a painting stud. I'm so studly that I can paint and lift weights at the same time. So that was the joke. And so we at this point I hadn't slept in days, and Matt Rose, my dear friend Matt Rose, who passed away about 4 years ago, he was there with me side by side, and he took this photo. And unfortunately, if you see that I'm holding the weight, it's just basically a broom pole. There's nothing. It's not a real number.
Oh, you're right.
I'm balancing this while I'm pretending like I'm painting. And after the photo was taken, Matt walked by and my arm kind of shifted a little bit, and that weight fell on his foot and broke his toe.
Yeah, you don't have the clamps on there.
Yeah, it was very unfortunate. But the funny thing about this photo is two quick stories about this photo. Years ago, I stumbled upon a website, and it was like 10 of the most iconic photos of Hollywood. And you have photos of like Cecil B. DeMille on set, and Elizabeth Taylor's Cleopatra and Ben-Hur, and all this stuff. And guess what? Photo number 10 was.
Wow! No way.
Photo. And I was floored. I thought, what the hell is that doing in there? It's so silly. But somebody thought it was significant enough to stick it in this article.
That's hilarious.
And then another funny story was I was at Monsterpalooza. This was maybe 5 years ago or something. And I went to a vendor booth to get like a cover for my cell phone. And I'm standing there talking to the guy. And there's a guy standing next to me talking to one of the vendors. At the same time, we turned around and looked at each other. He looked at me. He literally jumped back. And I thought, well, that was kind of a weird reaction. I looked on his shirt. He had that on his shirt.
Whoa.
Wait, let me get this straight. There are shirts out there with this on it?
No, I think the guy custom made it. Had that on his shirt. Yeah, it was kind of crazy.
Paul, let's bring that back. That's crazy.
That is amazing.
Was that the moment you knew you made it? When you were on some guy's custom shirt? Like when does
No. The moment that I knew I made it was when I was working 3 days at a time without sleep, getting paid peanuts. And sleeping on the floor. Yeah, that's when I knew I made it.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
That's great. Oh my gosh.
Look at that. Jeez Louise.
This is Hell Comes to Frogtown. This was the first show that I actually headed up on my own after I did Predator.
Okay.
And yeah, I was contacted by a friend named Donald G. Jackson, who's passed away quite a while ago. He was an independent filmmaker, and he had come up with the idea for a film called Hell Comes to Frogtown. And he took it to New World Entertainment, and he got it funded. And so he asked me, "Hey, can you make some masks for this?" The budget was something like $12,000 or something. It was
nothing.
Nothing. Yeah. And so, but I had this obsession with frogs. I thought like frogs were just such beautiful creatures.
Yeah.
And I always wanted to do a show like this. So when he approached me, I was like, yes, absolutely. I don't care how much it is. I'll do it. And so that's what you're seeing here is my crew. On the left side, we have Maki Okita, who I met him at Boss Films. We have Grant Arndt, who was also a super talented sculptor. He won for the Halloween a Monster Makers contest, the Scream at George contest. He won second place for best monster suit. In the center is Matt Rose, and my dear friend Matt. Matt and I came up together from San Jose.
Wow.
Supremely super talented guy. He's done so many shows that you probably don't even know about. He was at Rick Baker's for decades.
Oh wow.
Yeah. Dave Kinlan, who is he's a genius mechanic. I met working at Stan Winston's. And then Eddie Yang, who was also super talented, and he was my protege at the time. And so, so we did this whole show. Basically, we had like a month and a half or something to build everything, and went outside and did it. So,
wow.
Yeah, and if I'm wrong, Roddy Piper was in Hell Comes to Frogtown. Am I right?
Yeah. Roddy Piper was amazing. He was such a nice guy. Yeah, it's like I didn't know anything about him at the time. I just heard, he's just like this wrestler guy. So, I worked with him, and he was just always super nice to me and nice to everyone on set. And then I saw some video of his shows. And I was like, oh my god, this guy's like an asshole, but he's totally not like that in real life. So I guess that was just a role he was playing.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a shtick. Yeah, for sure.
Piper's
Yeah.
Pit.
And then
Yes.
and for Father's Day, my dad was a huge wrestling fan. And so I told him, hey, can I get a picture with you for my father? And I'll hold a sign, of like, happy birthday, Frank, whatever. He said, sure. He picked me up over his shoulder while I'm holding the sign and took this photo. And I got it developed. And then he signed it for my dad. I sent it to him. And my dad was floored. Yeah.
Yeah, and Roddy Piper wasn't the biggest wrestler that you've ever met. You have a picture with Antonio Inoki as well.
Oh, yes. Yeah. That was crazy. There was a guy, a wrestler named Keiji Muto.
I know Keiji Muto.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Keiji was doing. He was a friend of mine, my agent in Japan, and he was traveling to the U.S. and doing these talk show things, like a 1 hour sort of get together and talk. So he asked me if I can be on it, and so I went on there and I was on there. It's a real casual thing. We shot, and then afterwards, he says, "Oh, I'm going to have dinner with Antonio Inoki. Do you know who he is?" I'm like, "Of course I know who he is." So we all went and had dinner with Antonio Inoki, and it was crazy. He was, and again, he was super nice too.
Yeah. He just passed away recently.
Yeah.
And the great Muta, or the Keiji Muto, just had his final match recently as well.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I lost touch with him, but we did another video where we did a thing where it was like a special release where he, as the great Muta, is fighting this creature that I had made.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
We shot it on set of Guyver 2 before I tore it down. We shot the whole thing there, and it was like kind of intercut between like a documentary of his life and all that kind of stuff.
Wow, that's incredible.
Yeah.
Amazing.
How come it always comes back to wrestling?
It does. Yeah.
All the cool people remember wrestling.
It's a common thread for sure.
Life is wrestling.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
And then this is from Gremlins 2. This is the Mohawk character. I was working for Rick Baker, and it was such an amazing opportunity. Rick brought a bunch of us in. He brought myself, Matt Rose. He brought Norman Cabrera, Jim McPherson. Grant Arndt was on there as well, and Eddie Yang. And basically, he just said, like, okay, you guys each design your own gremlin.
Wow.
And so this was he said, why don't you do the villain guy, and I said, okay, do you have any ideas what you want? And Rick says, well, I kind of saw him as like kind of a black color gremlin, and that's what I had to go with. And I ended up designing this guy for the film, and I was responsible for building all the different variations. And Mark Satrakian was a genius mechanic in our business still. He mechanized it and do all this crazy stuff with it. So that was a great opportunity to do that and the spider version. And then on the right, that photo is from Boss Films back in 1986. I was 20 years old. This was for a movie called Hunter, which is actually pre-Predator. It's the same movie. And Boss Films was doing the creature on there. And I was actually on the crew of that film. And there was all these scenes where there's all these trophy heads, which I think they did in Predator 2, but they cut out of Predator 1. So this was based on a Steve Johnson design. He had a maquette for it. This was the original Predator that he wanted to do, but because he got rejected, he said, well, sculpt this as a trophy head. So I sculpted that as a trophy head for the film.
Wow.
That's amazing.
So incredible.
Where do a lot of these end up, Steve? You know what I mean? If it's used in the film, do you guys kind of sneak it off the lot?
Yeah,
that would be
sometimes
what I would do. I'd be like, this isn't going to make it into the final cut.
Yeah, so sometimes like this head actually, Jeff Death has a copy of it because he released it as a Death Studio collectible at one point.
Oh, wow.
So cool.
So I had a copy of this in foam, and I sent it to him and said, well, if you want to make a copy and sell this, you could. So he still has the original. That's been said. I never asked for it back. But usually for stuff that I have, like, people say, oh, you must have Predator helmets or all this stuff. And, when you're working on these shows back then, like Predator wasn't anything before Predator came out. Right. So it was like another project. And it was so hellish because we had so little time and so much to do. Like literally, like I said, we weren't sleeping for three days at a time to get this thing done. That once we're done and came back from Mexico, the last one we want to see is look at this thing again.
Yeah, right.
So
yeah,
I'll tell you
a lot of this stuff. Yeah.
I'm sorry, I'm going to interrupt. I was thinking of Predator. I'll tell you a fun story. When I was a kid, I went to Puerto Vallarta in 86 or 87. It was right when it had just filmed. It hadn't come out yet. Mm-hmm. And one of the people, like, because this is in the basically not too far off in the quote unquote jungle of where the Predator was shot. And so we get taken by this guide to this to the area where it was shot, and they're like, big Hollywood movie, and it was wonderful. And we see a burned out helicopter. We see kind of the area where they had, done a lot of stuff. So we're posing next to it, like, hey, this is great, and like not thinking anything of it, right? We're, and then I go back home, and then of course it comes out, and we're like, I was there. I got to see, it was just kind of a surreal moment. Like I still have these old pictures of me, like as a teenager, walking around like the whatever used to be that burned out Puerto Vallarta.
Wow.
Anyway, so I can only imagine, because I was there for a vacation for a couple of days, right? But at the same time, it was sweltering and like and hot and terrible when I was there. I still remember it. So I can only imagine what you guys were into.
It was horrible.
Honestly,
in the shade, it was 113 degrees. That's how hot
That's
it was.
gross.
Yeah,
and not humid at all. I'm
Humid,
assuming,
and really
right?
humid. Yeah, wet.
Yeah, it was, yeah, it
Like
was
Arizona, right?
Well,
Matt, for our sake and the show's sake, I'm so glad you didn't have a weapon in your hand while you were there. You know what I mean? He could have zoned right in on you. You're lucky you made it out alive, my friend.
Well, yeah, he didn't see. I was covered in mud, so no one saw me.
That's a lot of mud, you giant.
Yeah, so this photo here is from AVP2 Requiem, and this is for Studio ADI for Al Gillis and Tom Woodruff, who I met working at Stan Winston's. In fact, Al Gillis was the guy that gave me my first job in town, working for Stan Winston's on Invaders from Mars.
Wow.
So this is this is probably a good decade or so later, and he did the AVP movies. So he brought me in to kind of help design and build or sculpt the Predalien. So what was cool is that from the neck down, I designed it, in the maquette form, and also sculpted the big thing. I had a great team. Casey Love was one of the sculptors on it.
Oh, Casey's amazing.
Yeah, Hiroshi Katagiri was one of the other guys. We had a few really good sculptors on it with me. And then this head was a combination of myself, Farzad, and then I think there's one or two other designers on there. It was kind of a mishmash of different elements put in for the final head. So yeah, it was a lot of fun sculpting, because one thing I love about making these kind of creatures, creatures like on the cave or whatever, is that, like designing and sculpting is one thing, but then building it, like what you're seeing here, all this block out, these things, all pieces all have to come apart in layers and all this
right.
in how it's designed to be built. So I love that process. I love then cutting it all up and doing this and prepping that, casting this part, making a plug, and then go back in and do this part and add the dome. And that's always a really fun process for me when I do creatures like that.
It's so crazy. It's more engineering than it is artistic, and it's to find the happy medium between the two. I mean, you said you love it. I had anxiety listening to you talk about it.
It's fun. Like, even I think the cave was probably one of the most complicated ones that I did, and I think that had close to like 15 or 20 different elements I had to all fit together just for the head. So yeah, it was a lot.
So Steve, when you do like collaborations with some of the people you collaborated with on one build, for instance, like the last one we just were talking about, is it difficult, because everyone is at the top of their game. Everyone is extremely qualified in every direction to kind of to be like, does it eventually become like one leader, and then I'm gonna, or is that hard? It seems like it'd be really hard for me. I struggle with my own, and I'm my own in my own head. But I mean, if you've got 3 or 4 people collaborating on one piece, does it get difficult?
Sometimes, but there's been a huge shift in mentality since when I first started in the business in the mid 80s. There was a time before, where there was as a sculptor, there was a sense of authorship. When you sculpted something with your sculpture, and even your bosses wouldn't come in and touch it. Like it's so sacred.
Right.
But then with the modernization of having to mass produce the stuff in a very quick amount of time, now we're starting to put teams of people together. Like, okay, you two will sculpt this body, you guys will sculpt this. When that started to happen, what I found was happening was that the egos of people started lessening a little bit more. That's not to say that there aren't instances where people are like fighting over stuff, but what generally has happened is that there's always somebody like a ringleader. One thing I've done for a lot of different projects for for Rick Baker, like Gremlins, and for Patrick Tatopoulos on all his shows, that I art directed on and spectral motion was that I was kind of like the guy, the guy in charge of the creature. So I do a lot of hands-on too. Like, I'll end up sculpting the majority of it, and then I'll have my crew. They're kind of like the support sculptors team. So then I can go in there and I can art direct and say, yeah, let's do this more like this, and I'll go in there and I'll sculpt a section of it and whatever. So when you have somebody who's kind of in charge and saying this is what to follow, you have less problems, because then all the sculptors, they know their part is just to be basically hands.
Sure.
To make it all happen, put their style into it, their expertise into it.
Okay.
And I've certainly done that a lot in the past for other sculptors as well, where I'm there to support what they're doing, and I'll do sections of it here or there and whatnot. So
Okay.
So as an art director, do you find you must have such a big part of what the character is, right? So there's ideas of what they want the character to be, but you must have such input where this is what I see the character as, what we can build, right?
It just depends on from job to job. Some jobs, they already come to me with a finished design. And then my job is to basically build it. But then what I often have to do is basically tell the directors, like, well, this is really cool in my kit form, but you'll never get this on a person. This happened on Hellboy, the first Hellboy, the Ape Sapien. Originally, like we all kind of pitch in and done different designs, from Guillermo's own designers to Spectral's own designers, and we had all done sketches and whatnot. And the final one was a maquette done by Jose Fernandez of the full Abe, and then I came in and I painted it and designed the paint job on it. And based on that, Guillermo approved, like, this is the Abe. And then Guillermo then sent me a picture of the actor he cast for Abe, and this guy was like 5'5", and he was like a bodybuilder. Yeah. And then at dinner one night, I told Guillermo, I said, I think this is not going to look the way you think it's going to look. And he said, well, show me. So I did a Photoshop comp over the guy, and I showed it to Guillermo, and he was almost in tears. He was like, oh my God, what have I done? And I say, well, I know somebody else. And I literally dialed Doug Jones on the phone, and I say, here.
No way. Oh
yeah,
my
talk
God.
to Guillermo. And then he talked to him, and the next day we all met with Doug at Guillermo's office, and he was hired on the spot to be Ape Sapien.
Oh my God.
Wow.
And then from there, we're able to make the Ape Sapien look like the maquette. So yeah, there's a lot of that kind of stuff going on, even especially in the digital world. They'll make these things that are like, big armor, badass looking things, and I'll look at it and I go, he can't even move in this thing. We have to make adjustments to all these designs, So that's kind of my job, is to basically engineer it out, tell them what's possible, what's not possible.
Right. Wow.
Yeah.
So can I ask you a question about Doug Jones? Because he seems to be the guy for these. Does he just have the perfect lanky? I know he's tall, right? So he's like 6'4".
He's also very thin. I'm sure he fits in a lot of.
Yeah.
Well, what I'm getting at is Matt Harper's taller.
I'm not thinner.
And Matt'll do some crazy shit.
Yeah. I'll put my phone number at the end. We'll certainly get you linked up with Matt Harper.
Is it because Doug is so articulate with his movement? Because whatever character he plays, it's like it's almost theater in the suit. If he becomes
he is
character.
The thing about Doug is Doug is actually, he's a really good actor. I mean, he's like an actor.
Yeah. Yes, I agree.
And foremost, but he also, because of his build, he's like the perfect living armature, because for suits and characters, we have to always build out. So the skinniest part is only as skinny as you can get with the person's body, right? So they start out healthy, then everything's going to look overly big, and it doesn't look natural. So Doug has that advantage in that he has like the perfect human armature, but also too, he's a trained mime. He's great with body movement. He can tell a story. He can convey emotions through his body language, and some people don't quite understand it until they get him in makeup, and then they see him move, and then they kind of go, "Oh, shit, I get it now."
Right down to
putting a costume on somebody and go, "Look at my monster," and they kind of move around all crazy and stuff like that. It isn't that. It's actually a performance. There's acting. Like Kevin Peter Hall was great with that too. If you watch Harry and the Hendersons, amazing performance that was, right? Yeah. So it's there's a big difference between fitting in a costume and being a physical performer. You have to be an actor, really, if you're going to do a really good job.
Well, I think of his role as Il Fauno, in in other Guillermo del Toro I mean, I think he definitely is an actor. You wouldn't be able to really ascertain how good of an actor he is because it's such a great character, and it's hard to explain, but it's like he's so good as an actor that the character is played off. You instantly know it. Like, yeah. Anyway,
I think that's how you figure out he is a good actor, is because you're like, this person's in makeup and I'm buying it.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you watch Star Trek Discovery, Doug has he's the lead character in that show. He plays this alien. He's like in super heavy makeup, but he's very lanky. And if you just watch him in any episode, aside from the fact that he's actually a very good actor in the part, just watch how he moves and how he walks around. There's a whole alien body language, and it's very consistent. Even for the way he walks and the way he talks and the way he moves, it's always the same. That sort of, he keeps that character alive, and that's really, really cool.
We'll get him on the show, and we'll start asking him specific questions. But you have
Andy's he's your human armature, like
exactly.
Yeah, I don't know how many more years he's going to do this. I mean, he's done it for so long, and it's such a pain in the ass to wear makeup and then take it off every single day.
God, every day.
Hours in the chair every day. I mean, he's such a patient guy, but I don't know.
He's going to be at Monsterpalooza, from what I hear. So
yeah. He's a great guy. He's such a sweetheart.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Are you going to be
iconic paint job here? Iconic.
Yeah, Beetlejuice. This was done for Ted Ray, who did the stop motion animation on this. And I came on this show when it was already pretty far along. I think like Stuart Land was on there as one of the sculptors, Mike Smithson, Matt Rose. So I was tasked with designing his paint job and painting it. We did the animatronic head, also the stop motion model, and then I also sculpted the teeth on him, I think.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Beetle Snake.
Yeah. So this covers it. This is the actual one that I painted for the stop motion model. Yeah.
What's the name of the movie again? I don't think I've seen it.
Never heard of it.
Beetle sauce, Beetle something.
Beetle guys, Beetle views.
Something, yeah.
So crazy.
Starts with a B.
Yeah. Cult classic.
That's this is the one actual scary part of the movie.
Yeah.
That's the one where you're like, oh shit, he's for real. It's when I stopped looking at Winona Ryder for 5 minutes.
I got to sculpt her legs in miniature because there's a scene where he stuck his head like underneath on the ground looking through her legs. So I sculpted like a miniature, like 1/3 scale leg of her as well, that he can do this thing.
Wow.
And,
insert giggity right here.
I need you to I need some pictures of your legs.
Yeah, right. Can we get that? Are those up on your Etsy page?
No, they're on my OnlyFans page.
Oh yes, that's
celebrity miniature leg sculptures page.
Yeah, the back order is 5 years.
Oh my god!
Now this, oh my.
Okay,
yeah,
so
this thing.
I'm so enamored. So I want to talk about Onyx Forge, but this to me, like, I mean, I know the one in New York, right? And I mean, I know this is maybe an homage to that. Is it? But the scale is just remarkable to me.
Yeah, it's the same size as the one in New York, the Wall Street Bowl.
Wall Street, yeah.
So
okay.
The story behind this was we were contacted by an agency called the Small Agency, by the two Lucas who ran the company. Great guys. And they had this campaign to, because in Florida, they declared Florida the capital of Bitcoin. And that's what the future of finance is going to be, right? This is right before the pandemic. So, this is during the pandemic, sorry. So basically, it's before the crash of Bitcoin that happened.
Oh, okay.
But basically, the idea was that because New York had Wall Street Bowl, Miami needs to have a crypto bowl. Right. So they said, hey, can you guys like build us like a Transformers version of this bowl, like a high tech digital thing? They brought in Furio Tedeschi, who's an amazing designer. He did a lot of the Transformers movies, and so Furio designed this thing. And then we took his design, and then we kind of like embellished a lot of stuff with it, made it a little bit more mechanical, fill it more detail and stuff, But it basically looks like his design for sure. And then we had from digital modeling to on-site installation, we had 4 months.
Oh
And
my goodness.
this show made me reevaluate why I do this stuff. Because it was one of the hardest shows we've ever done. Because this thing was 16 feet long. It's the exact same size as the Wall Street.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
Wall Street.
it's huge, and it weighs like close to 3,000 pounds. And there's a metal engineered armature inside. This is made of like fiberglass boat resin. It's got UV coats. It's lights. It's insane in how it goes together and take apart. So a show like this normally would take us about 7 to 8 months to do properly. We did it in 4, including 3D modeling.
Oh my God.
Yeah, it was just one of those things where, and then we got hit in the middle of the show. We got hit with COVID pretty badly. Like we lost about 11, 12 people off my crew.
Oh,
myself and my wife included. So I was out for 2 weeks, sick as a dog from COVID. And my business partner, who also is one of my partner in crime, who he and I will engineer and figure out how to build everything in the shop. He had to take over for a few weeks on his own, and yeah, he's like the real deal. Like, he pulled it off. But we got this thing done, and shipped it and built it, and twice. One for the show, then took it apart, and then took it to the Miami-Dade College for the final installation in the concrete and stuff like that.
Oh my God.
Yeah, so we're very proud of it. But damn, this was like holy shit. Why are we doing this? We're gonna die from doing this stuff.
I'm assuming they gave you $100 billion in Bitcoin at the time.
No, unfortunately, it costs a little bit more than what they paid for. It was expensive. It was definitely very expensive, but it was expensive to build. So unfortunately, we didn't really make any money off of this project. But like I said, somehow when we were first approached, I just knew we had to do it. If nothing else, just being able to do something like this cool, even though it was like almost killed us, it was still a really cool experience.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't think anybody looks at the photo or looks at any photo of it and isn't completely astonished at what you're able to do. It almost doesn't make sense. It almost looks like a rendering.
Yeah.
There's no way it should be able to be that perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm actually depressed, which is like the best compliment
I also would say anybody who follows Steve, you also follow the Onyx Forge as well, because it's in a link on his Instagram too. But go to this, and you can see the molding. I guess it was a molding. I think I remember seeing some kind of progress photos of it, and the person laying in the mold, just to give you an idea of the scale. It's remarkably big. It's hard. Every
piece of this is mold and cast. I mean, because this thing has to last like 50, 100 years.
Wow.
So we treated it with like all the heaviest duty materials, UV protection. I mean, everything.
Wow.
And it was quite a lot of engineering. I mean, there were so many parts on this.
I can only imagine. Yeah. So great.
Yeah, Arthas. This is another one I'm really proud of. This was for I think it was 2016. This was Blizzard Entertainment's 25-year anniversary, and their wing in Taiwan, they wanted a bronze statue. I think on the Blizzard campus they had an orc that was done by Weta, and then in the Paris campus before they closed it down, I had done one for them of Kerrigan. So they approached me about doing Arthas, and Arthas on right now he's 10 feet tall, and then on the plinth it makes him about 14 feet off the ground. And this was another huge undertaking because with Blizzard, my friend Nick Carpenter, who was the cinematic director at the time, the guy I worked with, he's really into like details. So we sculpted this thing. This is all hand sculpted. We sculpted it to look like it's like super high res. You can paint this thing realistically to look like a costume and armor, and it'll look like as good as anything we do. His face has pores on it, so that's how crazy.
Wow.
Yeah. And this one I was really proud. This is 4,400 pounds of metal.
Oh my gosh! Now, how many pieces? Like, I imagine this thing is many pieces.
It was a lot. I mean, because we the foundry that we hired to do it, when they first gave me the budget, I said to him, I said, you understand what we're doing, right? And I said, how are you budgeting this? And he says, well, we're budgeting by the square foot. And I go, you can't budget it like that. I said, we're not making it like that. So I actually increased their budget by quite a bit. To just say you need more money to cover this, and luckily I did, because even that wasn't enough.
Oh wow.
Yeah, but we eventually got it done. But the cape there was like about 12, 13 feet long. I mean, it was a long cape.
Yeah.
And then every piece, like the armor, all came off like real armor. The helmet, the sword, everything.
What?
So, and then with that, what was with the foundries? They have like these 2 foot by 2 foot like sand bats that they have to coat it in the sand mush, to make the molds.
Mhm.
So we have to make sure that every piece would fit in there. So after we molded everything had to be cast and cut in a way that it would all fit. So when we got to the cape, that was quite a challenge, because I said, well, how are you guys going to do this?
Yeah.
And they had no idea. They never done anything this complicated. And luckily, coming from my background of problem solving, with my partner Cleve, basically we decided, okay, this thing's going to be like a 9-piece mold in silicone, front and back. And then we put registration points on every piece, 5 points on every piece, so that you can take 2 pieces in the middle of the cape where it registers to nothing, front and back. And it will still have registration point that we can seal off and do the cast.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, so we worked it all out for the foundry, so that because we knew the process already, and we figured it out for them how to do it. And then they put it all together and did a great job, and it just looked amazing.
It's unbelievable.
Yeah, it's
When
incredible.
you think about
The base I'm really proud of. You can only see there's 2 bases. There's the big rock one that was done in Taiwan, but then you see the base that he's standing on, the more detailed one.
Mhm.
I'll have to post pictures of that. I was so proud of that base. That base, it's like these kind of jagged ice rocks. But where he's standing, he's so heavy. Imagine glass being shattered, and there's like these shattered marks, like almost like broken glass in a circle from each foot. It's all sculpted in there, all like facets, all cracked and everything. It's like super hyper detail. I'll have to post photos of it. We like spare no expense to make this the tightest, craziest detail sculpture, that we've ever done. So
cool.
Blizzard.
And it'll last for generations. I mean, we'll all be long dead. This will still be there. And I can only imagine the my great grandkids be like, it's still standing. This is what people used to look like.
That's what people used to
Yeah.
say.
when we're all gone from nuclear war, aliens will come down and go, oh, this is what humans used to dress.
Yeah, this is what they used to do. Oh my god.
That's all that's going to be left is the bull, this sculpture, and cockroaches.
Right.
Steve, you'll be immortal. This one is one of my favorites of all time.
Oh, thank you.
It's the motion. You really are like depressingly good at everything you do. It's
Thank you.
so
Yeah,
good.
this was the idea I had. I wanted to do a series of it. It's called the Unkillable, and this was sort of like the first version of it, to see that there's kind of a vampire-like character, and you've done everything. You've blown his brains out, and he's not dead, and you've cut him to pieces, blown up to pieces. You've taken his heart out. You've tried to stake it. There's no heart left. Basically, he can't be killed, and this kind of fluid in there is what's kind of like keeping him alive. So you can see it has life of its own.
Yeah.
So when I first wanted to sculpt this, I was going to do it traditionally. But before I did, I thought, oh, you know what? This armature is going to be kind of complicated because there's so much negative space on him.
Yeah.
I blocked it out in ZBrush really quickly just so I can see like how I need to build the armature. And as I got into it, I thought, well, why don't I just finish in ZBrush? Like, I'm still learning ZBrush. I'm not that great at it, but I'm still learning it. So the one thing that was cool was that I sculpted this whole thing in 5 days in ZBrush, and then was able to get it all cut up into all the sections that we needed to take it apart and print it so we could mold and cast everything. And so, it was actually like, I was like, oh, this is kind of cool. I think I'm going to do a lot more of this kind of stuff in ZBrush.
Wow.
So I'm doing a project right now for Universal. There's like 3 statues we're doing. 2 of them I've completely sculpted in ZBrush, full figures. That we're printing in high resolution like this. And then we're going to mold and cast and, in translucent resins and stuff like that. So, yeah.
My God.
So
you know what though? Your inexperience at ZBrush really shows on this.
Yeah.
You mastered it in 5 days, Steve. Come on.
Yeah, I'm working on it.
Yeah, I'm working on it.
Yeah,
Oh my God.
But when it comes to the paint job, I get there's lighting on it, but I mean the paint job makes it look so real. Is that something? Because I know there's translucent resins, and there's colored resins and different types of, like, you can have silicone stuff. Is this then painted afterward by you?
Yeah, I painted this. What's the thing? The thing that's actually I've learned recently is that what you're seeing here, this is the actual print that was painted. So
Okay.
it isn't actually translucent, and it's not as translucent as it looks compared to the stuff we cast in translucent resin.
Okay.
But here's the thing that I learned recently: the new pieces we're doing now, I've been just using high resolution prints and just painting the prints. But one thing was that I found out that they can print in clear. So I'm having them print stuff in clear now, and we sandblast them, and then we do our paint process on top, and now it looks like translucent resin.
Wow. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
So
Wonderful.
we got that part kind of worked out now too. So from as of this point on, now everything we're going to print is going to be in the clear, so we can paint it, and it just looks like translucent, almost like silicone.
Wow. Is this true to life scale? Just so I have an idea. Is this like a one?
Yeah, this is a 1-to-1 scale. He's a small guy, so his head is like maybe smaller than mine, just a tiny bit.
Okay.
But he's more like somebody who's like 5'8", I think, or something like that.
Okay.
Matt, it's like the size of your hand.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah, but the thing that I love is, when you don't have to mold, stuff, you can start doing stuff that are kind of defy gravity and a lot of negative space type stuff, and
Sure.
and all you have to worry about is just kind of cutting it in a way that you can reassemble it.
Wow.
There is a question about have you played with molding in ZBrush and printing the molds?
I'm actually going to do that next week. I've seen like my friend Landon Myers, who makes these amazing silicone likeness masks.
Yeah, Landon.
He does it all, in printing the molds and stuff. And I've seen that process. So I'm very well aware of it. But next week, I'm actually, once I get this new figure that I sculpted, cut, and ready to send out to print, we're actually going to do some more experimentation with printing molds now and see what we can get out of. I really like to try makeup appliances in 3D and printing that stuff and see how that all works. I've seen a few other people do it pretty successfully, so it's very hopeful.
I've seen Rick Baker did a bunch of really cool printed molds that just blows your mind. It's like it's a new world for me. I'm just sitting back watching it, just astonishing.
Yeah. For like hard molds are great. I haven't seen anybody do soft molds like silicone molds and stuff like that. But I'm sure that'll be in the future when you can print in different materials.
Of course.
By in the future, do you mean like next month? I feel like it's going.
Very fast. Very likely. I mean, this technology
in the near future. Near future. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
So these are just this started out as an experiment. I done a couple of ZBrush sculpts of these kind of bony, sort of predatory sort of helmets, and as an experiment, I just wanted to see like, okay, if we were ever tasked with having to create these kind of costume parts very quickly, what's our pipeline look like? So I took an old little sculpture I did in a day, and I kind of like stretched it out and made it more like a helmet, and we sent it to print, printed it up just like FDM, like filament printing, not even the high res resin print. And from there, one day clean up, do a quick mold on it, and then I was able to cast a bunch of these. But the idea was, if we had, let's say we had 10 printers or 20 printers, right? And we could actually sculpt a costume like this pretty quickly, print up all the parts, clean them up, and basically use them as part of the costume. So you can actually get a pipeline of stuff pretty quickly. So these are all things that, trying to work out workflows and pipelines is very fascinating for me, because a lot of times we're tasked with such like tight schedules.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
This kind of stuff out, yeah.
Speaking of that, what kind of timing would it take to paint something like that? Because that looks so interesting.
Yeah, these were all kind of free form. I go in there without any designs or anything like that. Normally I'll design stuff out ahead of time, because usually I have to do more than one. But for these are just more for fun. I did them to sell in China for these private collectors. So the one on the left, I think, was like maybe three days to paint, just playing around. And then the one on the right was like maybe about a week, because that just got more and more complicated as it went. I think I have some better pictures of it on my Instagram on the right one. You can see the crazy patterns that went on. It was quite a bit of like organization, because you have to kind of think in terms of layers of colors and what's going to create that kind of breakup and whatnot. So both of these were really fun to paint. I wouldn't want to paint a second one, because
one and done. Yeah, it was fun. Fun while it lasted.
Yeah, when I usually paint stuff for movies and whatnot, I'm very restrained. Like, I don't go the full gamut of what I can do, because a lot of times I have to paint like 10 of them,
Right, they'll expect it every time.
Yeah, but for these kind of things was just one-offs, I tend to just go, I'm just gonna have fun. I'll just do whatever I feel like doing, because I know I'll never have to repeat it again.
Yeah, the best part. The best part.
Yeah.
Jumping back to the molding a little bit with not the molding, the 3D printing. Ted Haynes was a guy that first pointed out to us how you can scan the actors now and sculpt over it. And you don't have the shrinkage or anything from like a life cast. So do you find the huge advantage in that as well? Like getting the actors scanned?
Yeah. All our actors are scanned now. We hardly ever do like live casts anymore.
It's crazy.
Everything we do is scanned. In fact, yeah, Ted actually came out here and played with us a few times, like a couple projects.
Oh,
yeah, he's great.
we love Ted.
We just collaborated on a project. It's a Boots Riley show from Amazon called I'm a Virgo, coming out this month actually. And we had made this costume for Walton Goggins. He's like kind of a knight in shining armor, but a little bit more techie costume. And we also had to do a half scale version, like 40-some inch version of him. And so Ted did all the little silicone heads likenesses of these characters and built a lot of these puppets for ADI. But he also made the head for our character because he was doing it already. And then we did the body and everything else for the puppet.
Oh wow,
that's amazing. Yeah, Ted's great. Ted's a great friend of the show.
Yeah,
that guy doesn't stop moving. He's all you guys are like so creative. It's like painful. I love it.
Yeah.
The ideas just bounce off each other. Do you find when you get together with a group of other creatives like yourself that it's just like, oh my God, I had another idea because of what he said. Or I have a great idea because of what this person just said.
Yeah, I think those ideas are more technical than anything else because, you know, in our business, like when we build stuff, a lot of time it's already sort of pre-decided what we're building.
Right.
So it isn't so much like, oh, it'd be cool if we did, you know, if this looked more like this or that. That process is a completely different process, different department. You know, with guys like Ted and you know and everybody we work with, it's more like how are we going to build this? How do we figure out the logistics and how do we create this thing that'll move better this way? And you know, it's a lot more technical in that respect.
Problem solving, like you said, it's almost like a think tank. You have
exactly
the right people in the room.
Yeah, we problem solve all day long. That's basically my job.
Yeah,
but it's fun problem solving. It's like the most kind of fun problem solving.
Yeah.
This is another one. I think the Blizzard stuff is just it can't be. This can't be a painful project, right? I mean, unless they gave you like 3 days to do it. Like
no,
this looks like the most fun ever.
Yeah, these are for Riot Games. And what was fun about the Riot Games stuff is that they're really into really dynamic poses and crazy.
Oh yeah, look at that.
Yeah. And then so this thing here, we with all the Riot Games, we're actually able to start out with a clay maquette first that we sculpt in our shop, and then from there, once we get approval, we'll build the real deal. This sculpture for the full body, I mean, there was something like 2,000 something pounds of clay. I mean, it was nuts.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, and then we had to make this fake fire, which we'd never done before. So having to figure out how to do that was a lot of fun. You know, going to a convention, you can't use smoke machines.
Oh, really?
So yeah, and so in kind of looking at and researching how we could do this, I found these water vapor units, basically like humidifiers, but they're industrial size, and we're able to build it. So like the inside of him looks kind of like the space shuttle. There's water retrieval trenches, and there's like glass partitions that shield the lights from the humidity of the stuff going in, and
oh my god,
all this crazy stuff, and the panels of where it comes out, and then the lights and the program, the flickers, and yeah, and even the trees had the same thing too, and the smoke coming out. And we sculpted.
Where is this sit? Where is this right now? Like if
this is at the headquarters of Riot Games in Santa Monica. It's the first thing you see when you walk in. Yeah.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Yeah. This was a fun thing. And the hand, his head, all the hair on his head was hand punched.
Oh my god.
Yeah. I have a friend, Denise Bear. She's like one of the best in the business.
Gosh.
Yeah. She'll do a lot of the hair stuff for me. And she's nuts. I mean, she's so many great artists working in our business. Yeah.
This was League of Legends, right?
Yeah, League of Legends.
That's what it was. Yeah.
It's Annie and Tibbers. Annie's the little girl, and she summons Tibbers. Her teddy bear becomes a giant monster bear. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, it's so beautiful.
Yeah, and this is also League of Legends. This is Katarina. She's like this. I forgot what the lore of it is, but she's like a warrior.
Yeah, she looks like a warrior.
Yeah, I think she's kind of like a bad guy. I think. I'm not so sure. This is quite a while ago. We did this in, I want to say 2012. Maybe 11 years ago we did this. Yeah.
I think redheads are always bad guys, no matter what.
Yeah, I think it's just by their nature.
Yes.
Yeah.
You know,
And what's fun is the tattoo on her body. They had kind of a basic design for the tattoo, but we kind of like, you know, they let us play with it. So my wife ended up designing the tattoo on her body, and I've seen that tattoo now as part of canon now. So it's all
No way.
Yeah, I've seen people with actual tattoos just like the real tattoos. And
Oh,
it's
no
basically
way.
one, yeah. So it's kind of cool.
That's amazing. And your wife is an amazing artist as well. So that, like, talk about the intercontinental champion tag team duo of artists.
Yeah. Can I tell you a fun story about my wife? You know, the Mandalorian, the Mythosaurus skull that you see everywhere now.
Yeah, you see it on the back of cars.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Years ago, she came up with that idea. She says, you know, I want to take that symbol. I want to make it a 3-dimensional skull. So she made one that was only about like 4-inch, you know, and she sold it at Designer Con, and it took off. Like, people loved it. She sold a ton of those at Designer Con. Yeah, and then Regal Robots, our friend Tom Spina, then got the licensing for that, and he says, "Hey, can I buy that from you? Because I licensed it from Disney, and can we produce that? And also, can you sculpt a large one for me too, a larger one?" So she sculpted the larger one, and then also sold a little one to him, and they started selling that. And then somehow, this other guy took it and like made a smaller version of it, and that Jon Favreau saw, and then put it on Grogu. Then it became Star Wars canon. And then so now you go anywhere, and there's this Mandalorian skull like all over the place. In fact, we were just at Star Wars night last week, and we did a photo op in front of a giant Mythosaurus skull that was obviously like a larger version of the one that she sculpted. And it's all like, so she inadvertently created Star Wars canon. Yeah.
Oh
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's amazing. She should literally walk around dressed as Leia at this point.
Yeah.
She's pretty much part of the Star Wars.
Yeah.
The
lore. Well, and I know Favreau's a huge Monsterpalooza fan, and I think we saw him last year too.
We saw him last year.
Yeah.
Is that where we saw him
all the time.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah, he does. I don't think he knows that story, but the funny thing is, a lot of people know that story. I was just talking to my friend Brian Ono and his group, you know, because he sells that little pendant, and I went up to him and said, "Oh, do you know the story behind that?" He goes, "Oh, do I?" He tells me the whole story. I was like, "Wow, okay, word got around." So yeah.
And this is her and her line of toys.
Yeah. She started out again. This is like from Designer Con. She did these little dragons called Little Embers, and she just made these little custom things, all painted, and she was selling them for really cheap, and they took off. And every year there would just be like more and more fans would come and like, you know, go, "Oh, we love that line. We want to buy more." So one of my business partner for ECC, George Sohn, has a toy business called Toynami. And I said, "George, do you think you want to produce this, you know, and sell it to Hot Topic?" He's like, "Yeah, I think it's a great idea." So he produced the first line. Hot Topic instantly picked it up. Like they were told they can't buy any more new stuff, but this lady's like, "I'm going to do it anyway because I know this will sell." And she did it, and of course, it sold like crazy. So now she's like 4 or 5 lines in, including plushies now, and Hot Topics constantly comes to the Designer Con to see her and bug her like, "What do you have new? What do you have new? We need
no
more."
way!
So awesome.
Yeah, so she's been designing a lot of new stuff for that. So
So cool is that?
Yeah,
Things are good in the Wang house.
I was gonna say the creativity. There's no lack of creativity in that house.
Yeah, can't complain. I mean, you know, we're both really excited about just having the opportunity to just be creative and make cool things. You know, and my wife's nuts. That's all she does. She works day and night just making stuff. Not because she has to, because she wants to.
Because she wants to, right?
Yeah.
You got that passion for it.
Yeah. And this was the visitant. This is Doug Jones, and my friend Nick Peterson, who actually, when I was producing my TV show, Kamen Rider Dragon Knight, I met Nick because I hired him as an editor on my show. And then Nick has since gone on to become a music video director, and he's directed like a couple of features, I think. So this was a short film that he and his friend wrote and made. And he came to me and says, "Hey, I don't have any money, but can you do a creature? We've got Doug Jones to be in it." And so, so for a very, very little money, we put this whole thing together. I think we sculpted the head. It's the only thing that we actually sculpted. And then the body was all made from appliances that we had laying around from years and years of of
No
shows.
way.
And the bodysuit was all kind of like, it was like spandex that we spatula foam over and foam sculpted and baked it and just did this big makeup. And then we went on set and applied it on Doug, and he shot like one really, really long day for the film.
Now, I think I've seen some pieces of this. This is the one that creeps into the room on the kid, right?
Yep.
Right.
Yeah.
That in and of itself is creepy as hell.
Yeah.
It's super creepy.
Yeah.
And
The cool thing was we had a little wire in his mouth, and we had LEDs inside his mouth. So he opens his mouth, it just glows red like there's fire coming out of his mouth.
Yes.
Oh wow.
Yeah, man, you got to check it out. It's creepy as hell.
I'm going to.
If I was any younger than I am now, I might have nightmares. But now like life gives me nightmares. This is my escape.
Well, the little girl that played, the girl that he was creeping up on, she loved him. I mean, I have photos on set, and every time she's playing scenes, she's like ear to ear smile. Like, she loved doing scenes with him. Yeah.
Wrong emotion. Cut. Try it again.
Yeah, you're too happy. Can you look scared?
What terrified actually means.
Yeah, but this is my buddy. I can't be scared. It's my buddy. Yeah.
He's so cute. Oh Jesus!
Yeah,
This had to be a zebra sculpt, right?
Yeah, this was a private commission.
That's crazy.
Actually, there's only one. There's only one in the world. Actually, there's two. There's this one here that I made for a private collector, and then I have one copy myself that's not painted, just kept for safety. But this was an original sort of very Giger inspired alien, and it's called the Guardian. It's basically a breed that was designed to guard the alien eggs.
Oh, wonderful. Okay.
Yeah. So I designed this and art directed it. My friend Moni Kazamiya from Paris, she sculpted it in ZBrush. Moni is amazing. She interned with me, I want to say like 10 years ago. She had never done ZBrush yet. She's an amazing portrait painter in digital, but she had not done much like sculpting and no ZBrush at all. And over time, she learned ZBrush, and then she's been like one of my main artists working on my projects. She's really great. So she sculpted it, and then Emily Dorosky painted it. So this was like an Onyx Forge project, like a collaboration.
What was it? Okay.
Yeah, for a private client.
So you talk about private clients, and I'm fascinated because you have so much on your plate all the time with movies and everything else going on. When do you get time to do private stuff like that? I mean,
Good question, man.
This took a long time actually, because I would always preface it with like, usually they have to like really bug me a lot before I would tell them like I don't do private commissions anymore. I haven't in years, but if we treat this like a studio project where it's not me doing everything, then I can do it.
Okay.
I'll treat it like a studio project. Then I can bring in artists, and then we can all work together on it. Yeah, that's the only way we could have done it. Because if I had to do all this myself, it would take. I just wouldn't take it. I just don't have time.
Yeah.
So because the sculpture is incredible. If you zoom in on the photos and the eggs and even these little face hugger alien creatures the hybrids that I designed.
Mm-hmm.
Each one's it's individual, and it's they're all separate, have a lot of personality to them. So
Yeah, it's unbelievable.
It is.
Yeah, you got a great crew, man. It's unbelievable.
Yeah.
Jeez Louise.
So Steve, I'll ask you a question when it relates to, because we talk, you've got so much on your plate. What's a day in the life for you related to? I mean, creature creation, managing people, managing the forge, managing kind of like just a day to day. Is it pretty regimented, or do you get time to kind of create and do kind of what you want ever?
No, my job sucks. My job sucks, and I hate parts of my life. Yeah, if you own a business, it's hard. It's really hard.
Yeah.
Because I do spend a lot of time, emails, payroll stuff.
Yep.
Luckily I have somebody now. My friend James came in to help become like a studio producer with me now. So he's able to take a lot of stuff off my plate. But it's still just, you're constantly doing bids and breakdowns, and there's just like, it's always so much stuff. And then you get emails from the city. They need this and they need that. And this
You're right.
Yeah, insurance comes in and go, this needs to be taken care of, and that storage, this problem and that problem, and then it's just,
oh my gosh,
it's endless. So depending on the day, like Mondays are the worst. Mondays I'll literally spend the entire day sitting in front of my computer. Yeah, and then so it's really hard for me to get back there to do stuff. So my days are not like 8-hour days. You know, they tend to be much longer, and a lot of times I'll stay much later to work. So I'll come in a little bit later in the morning, you know, so that I try to avoid being pulled away to do stuff.
Yeah.
But, you know, I think the hardest part is when you have to be creative. Like, you know, there's, I think, two different minds that we have, right? We have a technical mind that we, you know, like if I had just take care of like producer stuff all day long, and, you know, it's like, fine, I can do that. I've done that for years. But then in between, like, oh, I have a half an hour. I need to go upstairs. Like yesterday, I had to set in Hellboy's eyes on this new Hellboy bust that we're doing and glue in the mouth. So, you know, only I could do that, because if I have somebody else do it, they'll bring it to me and go, what do you think? What do you think? And I think, well, I'll just go in there, I'll just set it myself and I'll glue them in myself. So I'll just break away and I go do that. But then when you switch over to that creative mind, and then also come back to a technical mind, and then you get pulled away again to a creative mind, like it's really,
that's
really
gotta be hard. It really,
It really sucks. And then if I want to do anything, I usually have to stay late at night and do it, because during the day I literally don't have time. There's always too much going on.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, usually with creative people, like that's why they're night owls, because there's not the distractions of everyday life. That's when they can be their most creative. I used to remember staying up as a young kid, staying up until 3 a.m. and just drawing. That's when I was least worried about people.
Yeah, I was up till 3:30 this morning, and you
right.
know, I'm usually up between 2 and 3 every morning. That's just my normal thing. Yeah.
So he's gonna be in bed in 5 minutes, people. There's no way.
No, Steve, don't sleep. He already said that.
But a lot of times too, if I can just break away for a half hour and take a quick nap and recharge.
Yep.
You know, I see myself as more or less like a battery, like an electric vehicle. You know, when I start feeling tired, I know if I can just break away for 20 minutes, take a quick nap, recharge, come back, and I'm great again.
Yep.
Oh, that's great. That's great.
I can run myself kind of like a machine. So
the artist life hack.
Yeah.
Well, you know what they say, Steve? Chaos equals cash, right?
You think.
At least they say that.
Chaos is chaos, and chaos costs you money.
Yeah, you know who says that though? The
Who?
liars.
Exactly.
Right. Stupid liars.
Liars.
Yeah. So this is Medusa. This is something I made for ECC. Originally, it started out with a bust, and I sculpted it traditionally, just as an experiment. One of my partners in China, Jason, he came up with an idea. He says, "Hey, why don't you do a Medusa bust?" And I thought, Medusa? Who the hell likes Medusa? He's just like this woman that has snake on her hair. If you look at all the classic illustrations, and he says, no. I mean, you can just do your take on it. And I thought, oh, well, okay, yeah. Let me play around with it. So I did a couple of quick sketches and I sculpted this thing, and then it came out, and we had an edition of 500, and we sold out in 3 days, and we had waiting lists of 150. And I thought, holy crap! Like, that's insane how people love Medusa this much, you know. So then sometime later, they say, oh, you know, we should do a maquette of it, you know. And I had an idea about doing the two tails, because, you know, everything I design, I try to make it all functional. So there's the pose you see, that's all part of the way it moves, the way that it actually the motion.
So like legs,
yeah. And so I know some people like the two tails, other people just don't like it. They prefer the single snake, but I'm just like, fuck it. It's my design.
This is right.
Yeah.
We are the dreamers of the dream.
Exactly.
Sorry, no refunds.
Yeah. So this was my first full body ZBrush sculpt. I had only done about three or four like mini busts at that time. And I thought, you know, if I'm going to do this, it's going to take too much time to do it in clay. Maybe I'll try in ZBrush. And so I powered through this thing. Oh my God. Luckily, my friend Paul Gabry from Pixelogic was able to help me technically, like, oh, here's how you combine stuff. Here's how you can, you know, whatever, help me through it technically so I can keep moving forward. So I sculpted this in ZBrush in about a month while I was learning the program, which was a nightmare. So
yeah, I can tell.
Yeah, looks awful.
But, you know, but I got it done. So yeah, I learned a lot from it. Yeah.
Kidding me? It's amazing.
The unhinged jaw sells it so much. Like that is so creepy and so like Snake to me. Like I love that.
Yeah.
It's beautiful though. That's the thing. Like
she's beautiful. That's what you look at her and then you turn to stone. That's the whole.
And the motion, it's got that great motion to it. And I don't think you can learn ZBrush all you want, but it doesn't teach you motion. You've done such a great job of transitioning from the physical to the, the computer world, which is, again, depressing. You talented son of a gun.
Paul's gonna sit there with a gun in his mouth. No. He's
A clay gun.
Yeah, he's gonna drink extra tonight.
Don't do that. I mean, I'm not trying to depress you more, but there's a lot of other better artists out there than me. So if you're gonna do that,
well, you know what? It's always an honor and a pleasure to get to talk to you guys because you're so down to earth, and every single one of you has been so humble and had a great sense of humor about it. And you all talk about the teams that you've worked on, and everybody likes to give credit to the other guy. And it's just this cool, humbling world of artists that just, it's like that mind gets it, right? You could be the most talented person in the world, but you never want to say you're the most talented person in the world, right? That's not for you to say. It's for somebody else to say. So, God damn it, Steve, you talentedest person in the world. There, I said it. No, seriously,
I just feel very lucky to be able to do what I do for a living. I mean,
sure.
I always remind myself probably daily, I could either be like making something cool, or I could be like, working at a job that I hate.
Right.
So, it's and for as much as I hate my job sometimes in terms of the stress level and all the crap that you have to deal with, from a administrative perspective or client perspective, we still get to make a lot of good shit. Yeah.
At the end of the day, you're that 14-year-old kid.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's what you said.
Yeah, I'm still so excited about this stuff. I mean, I kind of worry about the end of my life. I'm just like, man, how much more time do I have to live? Because I have so much shit I still want to do. Yeah.
What did John just say? John Fuller says, Steve lies.
All lies.
The Big Wang theory versus the Big Bang theory.
Awesome. Well, Paul, show us what you're doing.
I'm going slow. I was having fun listening to Steve, but at the same time, if something's gonna be painfully happy and aquatic, it can't look like a butternut squash. So I've been just trying to knock it down and give him some sort of a smile. Plus, yesterday we spoke briefly on anime. So I'm kind of trying to figure out if I can anime this butternut squash a little bit for you, Steve. So
yeah, give it big eyes.
I'm gonna try. Yeah,
painfully happy big eyes.
Super. This is all solid from like here up, and I mean it was like this tall. So I tried to give it some sort of an aquatic shape, because everything should be pushed back. Yeah, and
Oh yeah,
there's some work to do. I might put it in ZBrush and see what I can come up with. I wish.
Give yourself 15 minutes, do a sculpture.
Yeah.
We'll come up with a Medusa on our own.
Yeah. Mold it real quick. See what happens.
Oh my God. I'm hoping it doesn't fall off the table by the end of the show.
So mine. I swear I was inspired by alien stuff. It's all mouth at this point. I've got nothing up here that's really ready yet, but I kept thinking of like a big mouth bass. You know how they have all those intricate pieces of like, anyway, all those like bony structures with the flesh. So I'm trying to think of that because like when they super open their mouth, it looks really creepy and painfully happy.
Yes,
that's the word. And so I'm going to give him some kind of big mouth bass mouth, but I don't know everything yet. But anyway.
I like the direction you're going because of the shape of it too. Like you were saying, the alien kind of it's got that shape of an alien.
Has that top, has that top.
Listen, other planets have water too. We just don't know about them yet. So aquatic could be. It doesn't have to be on this planet.
There you go.
There we go. Yeah. We never know.
I love where it's going. Nice job, man.
Well, Steve, I told you that 90 minutes would fly by. The fastest on the internet is what we deal with. If you want to see Steve's work, his Instagram is right here. Anywhere else we can see your work, or are you have also some other businesses as well?
I think I have a Facebook page that has a couple of. I have my Steve Wang Facebook page, and I have Onyx Forge, but I don't go on Facebook really anymore. So whatever's there, if I haven't taken it off already, it's some old stuff. But I remember posting a lot of process shots of how we build a lot of the statues.
I love that stuff. Love that stuff.
Yeah. So which is stuff you can't see on Instagram because they only give you like 10 photos at a time, and you know, so there's probably some stuff on there. I have that in the Onyx Forge page on Facebook, but then it's just mostly Instagram, and then YouTube. You know, I did a bunch of like talks at different presentations. There's some videos from Blizzard had made of the statues that we've done.
Yeah, recently I saw.
I posted a couple of those recently. Yeah, so there's some stuff on the net you can probably just search for. Yeah.
Awesome. Or you can just go to his Wikipedia page and spend 70 days watching movies that he's made awesome shit for. The guy's done everything.
Yes.
He's awesome.
Yeah, it's been a while. I've been very lucky to have done this for this long and not hate it. You know.
Oh yeah. For sure. Yeah. Well, this is where we are. We're on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Twitch, and TikTok. Guys, any last words before we sign off for this week with this legend?
Thank you, Steve.
Yes,
you are the man.
Yeah, it's been a lot of fun.
It has, and I think what's beautiful about this format and everything, we just geek out. I just am mad that it went by so fast. I'm like, damn it. I mean, I have a list of questions about Bill and Ted's Face of Music, about more about the bowl. I have a million. Anyway,
so many questions
we never even got to. So I'm just thankful we got to spend time with you, and we look forward to seeing you at Monsterpalooza, hopefully.
Yeah, for sure, definitely. I'll have a booth right there. As you walk into the dealer's room, I'm right there. Like I have a big booth for my ECC stuff. So
okay,
awesome.
Come see a new piece.
Next to Ted. By the way, we're right next to Ted, so you can't miss us.
Oh, okay, cool. Yeah, I have a full-size ET we just built. That's really fun. Coming back around to the whole ET thing. Yeah, we made a full-size ET.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that one. He came out really cool. Really fun.
Museum?
Huh?
Is that in the museum?
No, he's going to be in our booth because we're going to be selling him. Yeah, and then we have a Hellboy bust, life-size Ape Sapien.
Life-size? Oh,
yeah, life-size Hellboy bust, life-size Ape Sapien bust. That's already. We just finished that one already. It looks really cool. Because he's got the toilet seat that lights up, you know, and all that stuff. So, yeah.
Awesome.
Hey, I don't want to brag, but we'll be carving squash. So I mean, there's that.
Jared Shiflett. There we go.
Yeah.
Hey, Jared, what's up, man?
Friend of the show for sure.
Yeah, great guys.
Maddie,
super talented.
We're out of our league this year.
I know. I'm in awe. By the way, we're sculpting squash. Does anybody not know that? I mean, at this point,
we're literally there to hang out with you guys.
Delicious sculpture.
Say it again.
It's a delicious sculpture.
There we go.
Yes,
exactly.
Oh, I ate half of mine tonight. I literally did.
Edible and ephemeral. Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
All right, so we'll see you next Thursday with another Carvers and Creators. Thank you, Steve, from all of us here. We really super appreciate it, and we look forward to having you back. And we'll see you at Monsterpalooza, but we'll be back next Thursday. Good night, everyone. Take care. Thanks for joining.
Thank you guys so much.